Chapter 1. Hey there, sleepyheads. Tonight we time-slip back to ancient Rome and slide into sandals that are, quite frankly, far too tight for comfort. Picture this. Sunlight filters through the red silk curtains of your domus, warming your olive oil-scented skin. The marble beneath your bare feet is cool, despite the spring air swirling with whispers. Outside, a city stirs, a beast of stone and blood, politics and bread, senators and slaves. But you're Julius Caesar. And for once, you've decided, nah, you're staying in bed today. You stretch, yawn, and pat the soft linen beside you. It's the Ides of March, 44 BCE, and you feel off. Maybe it was the dream, horses running backward, the sound of thunder in the forum, or the slightly unhinged soothsayer who hissed, "Beware the Ides." Whatever it was, today just doesn't feel like a get stabbed by 23 senators kind of day. And here's the kicker, you actually listen to your gut. You, the dictator perpetual, conqueror of Gaul, lover of Cleopatra, trendsetter in toga design, decide to stay home. A servant tipped us in with figs, warm honey bread, and a jug of watered wine. You wave off the entourage, settle into a low couch, and sigh. You're supposed to attend a Senate meeting. They're expecting you at the theater of Pompey of all places. Ironic, really, since Pompey's your old frenemy who you defeated in the Civil War. You smirk? Not today. And just like that, like you're canceling a dentist appointment, you unknowingly avert one of the most famous assassinations in human history. Because yes, had you gone, the plan was already in motion. Brutus, Cassius, and more than 60 conspirators were ready, daggers tucked into togas, nerves twitching beneath polished Roman calm. But you cancel. Cue chaos. Now the day warps. Across Rome, subtle shifts ripple. In the shadows of the theater, men with hidden blades wait. And wait. One glances at the sun. Another swallows hard. It's nearly midday. Still no Caesar. A courier bursts in. He's feeling unwell. He won't be coming today. The words crack the room like thunder. A beat of silence. Then panic. You see, the plan wasn't just to kill you. It was to kill you in public, in front of the Senate, to demonstrate that Rome rejected kingship. That no one, not even a man loved by the people, could crown himself monarch and live. Without your presence, they're just a bunch of sweaty men with knives, caught loitering near a statue of Pompey. The irony becomes tragic, or hilarious. Back in your villa, you're lounging in a garden courtyard. Cicadas chirp. The air smells like thyme and roasted garlic. You sip wine and smile at a passing thought. Maybe you'll go to the countryside tomorrow. Maybe take Cleopatra and the baby. Maybe finish that weird poem you've been working on, the one about stars and fate. That's when Calpurnia enters. "Julius," she says, her voice tight. Rumors are swirling. They say some senators were gathered oddly today. You arch an eyebrow. She continues, "There are whispers about a plot." You nod slowly. They should have picked a different day. Here's the thing historians debate to this day. Whether your instincts were guided by superstition, genuine intelligence, or sheer laziness, we'll never know. But here, in this sleepy alternate path, your inaction reshapes everything. Back at the theater, Brutus's lips are dry. Cassius hisses, "What now?" The group fractures. Some flee, some linger in denial, some contemplate going to Caesar's house to talk. But that's lunacy. There are guards. There's Calpurnia. There's the unknown. There's you. And you've had time to think. You recline in your study, eyes narrowing. "Call Mark Antony," you mutter. "Tell him to bring the Praetorian Guard." Within hours, your estate bristles with soldiers. Not the brutish ones. They're reserved for bar fights and rebellions. These are your elite, disciplined, silent, terrifying in bronze. You meet with Antony in the candlelit triclinium. "They were going to kill me," you say, swirling wine. Antony, ever dramatic, slams a fist into his palm. "We crush them now." "No," you whisper. We let them stew. This is your power, patience. Over the next days, Rome buzzes with conspiracy theories. The Senate convenes in emergency sessions. The public hears whispers that Caesar is ill or injured or haunted. Some say he's become a god. Others say he's gone mad. You remain still, silent, watching. And in that vacuum, your enemies sweat. They squabble. They turn on each other. Fringe detail. A man named Lucius Tullus, a minor player in the plot, flees the city in disguise as a woman. He's caught at the Tiber and confesses everything before being bribed into silence with a vineyard. He'll resurface later, drunk and loud, and historians will disagree over whether he was even involved. But his story is enough. You now know names, motives, timetables. Calmly, you invite the Senate to a private gathering at your estate. Small, intimate. Just a handful of key voices. You serve them grapes, cool water, and chilled melon. Then you walk in, wearing white, not your usual crimson. I heard, you begin softly, that some of you were worried about me. How touching. They freeze. Your smile never reaches your eyes. You continue, a curious thing, isn't it, how easily Rome forgets who feeds her, defends her, bleeds for her. You raise your goblet to those who serve her, and to those who don't. No one drinks. This right here is your rebirth. Not Caesar the conqueror, not the dictator, not the soon-to-be-dead legend of Shakespeare's dreams. This is Caesar the chessmaster. Outside, soldiers await, quiet, invisible. You won't order deaths. Not yet. That would confirm every fear. Instead, you begin the slow burn. Letters go out. Promotions, sudden trials, quiet demotions. A few conspirators are appointed to far-flung provinces. Fresh air, you joke, do wonders for the nerves. One disappears en route to Cyprus. Another falls during a bath. No blood in Rome. Not yet. And you? You walk the streets again, cloak fluttering, smiling like you know something no one else does. Because you do. You survive. And now you'll rewrite the game. Chapter 2. You wake to the sound of birdsong, not steel. That's odd. Normally, this would be the day when your name would echo across centuries, but not this time. Today, Julius Caesar decides to stay home. It starts with a chill, a real one, not symbolic. The morning air bites a little, the way it sometimes does in early spring, and your wife, Calpurnia, touches your arm with worry behind her eyes. I dreamt of blood again, she says. You smile at her concern, but deep down, something stirs. A bad dream? Maybe. A warning? Possibly. And so, instead of brushing it off like some overconfident gladiator, you roll back over, shift under the covers, and for the first time in forever, you say the unthinkable. Cancel the meeting. You have no idea what you've just done. You're Julius Caesar, dictator, general, god in progress, and you just dodged your own assassination. In this reality, the Senate floor remains dry. Brutus never lifts a blade, and the Ides of March become a footnote, not a flashpoint. But history? Oh, history starts to shift. The conspirators, Brutus, Cassius, the others, wait. Dagger under cloak, breath held. They watch the door, then another hour, then whispers, something's wrong. He's not coming. You've scrambled their plan like a cook drops an egg, messy, irreversible. They scatter, pretending nothing was meant to happen. But their eyes dart, their hands fidget. You're sipping wine in your garden, and somewhere deep in Rome, the future hiccups. Now you've got a choice, and with choices come consequences. You've cheated death once. That's not free. The question now isn't will Caesar live? It's what will Caesar do with that second breath? Because Rome still festers. The Republic still teeters like a drunk on temple steps. The Senate still fears you. Your enemies still whisper. But now they're whispering with panic in their throats. You start to see it during your next public appearance. Faces that once smirked at you now glance nervously over shoulders. You've turned into a ghost. Still walking, but you weren't supposed to be here. Not anymore. And the people, oh, the people love it. They cheer louder, toss flowers, children call your name. Merchants hang your face on silver coins and pray for your favor. You've become a legend walking. And legends are dangerous. Because the moment people think you're invincible, they expect you to act like it. They want more speeches, more bread, more wars, or more peace, depending on who's yelling loudest. You can't just sit home forever eating olives. So you take your place again. Palace steps, public declarations, grain laws, and military reforms. But everything's just a little off. The Senate can't meet your eye. Some even stop showing up. You hear them muttering in corners. He's watching. He knows. God's warned him. And maybe you do know, maybe you don't. But you sure act like you do. Here's the problem, though. When a conspiracy fails, it doesn't disappear. It festers. The conspirators don't fade into farmers or poets. They seep, regroup. And this time, their knives are sharper. Brutus begins drafting letters cloaked in rhetoric. Cassius tries to reach allies in distant provinces. There are rumors, always rumors, that someone's hiring mercenaries in the shadows. Historians still argue whether Caesar truly understood the scale of what he avoided. Some say he spent the next weeks systematically hunting his enemies, reassigning officials, reshuffling guards like playing cards. Others believe he grew paranoid, that he locked himself inside his home, trusting no one, counting steps from window to curtain like a man already dead. But what we do know? You start making moves. Big ones. You pardon enemies, but you also promote fiercely loyal men, men who owe you everything and know it. You court the plebs with festivals. You give land to soldiers. You commission new temples, new roads, and you begin to whisper of a new kind of Rome, one where the Senate fades into symbol, and a single man leads with divine clarity. You never say king. You're not stupid. But the crown hovers, invisible, just above your brow. Some call it genius. Others call it tyranny by another name. And while all this unfolds, the conspirators panic. They've lost their moment, but not their purpose. They fear you're not just surviving, you're thriving. And now they've lost control of the story. Meanwhile, you're rewriting it. One decree at a time. One statute. One thunderous public cheer. And in the distance, across the empire, others watch too. Egypt, Gaul, Syria, Hispania. All the provinces you've touched and conquered wait, because Rome's fate isn't just a local drama anymore. It's global. Every step you take echoes into places that have no idea what's coming. Because Julius Caesar has stayed home. And the world won't be the same. Chapter 3. At first, the world holds its breath. No one quite knows what to make of a Caesar who survives the Ides of March. Fate blinked, the knives missed, and now what? Rome, always watching, starts whispering louder. You'd eat the gods. The omens failed. The man who was supposed to die didn't. And that in Rome is power. Because death was the one thing no man could outwit. Not even heroes. Not even emperors. But Julius? Julius stayed in bed. And now history itself feels off-kilter. Like someone bumped the sundial and no one knows what hour it is. So you, Caesar, lean into the confusion. You start slow. Public decrees with veiled warnings. Subtle shifts in command structure. You call in allies like Mark Antony and Lepidus for quiet meetings at odd hours. Not war councils. Not yet. But planning. Always planning. You visit the Senate again. Not in fear, but in theater. Your cloak flows longer. Your guards double. Your speeches grow bolder. I am not immortal, you tell them with a knowing smile. But Rome must be. It lands heavy, because some still love you, and some still hate you. But now, all fear you. Your close call has become myth. The poets sing of the sleeper of the Ides. The common folk burn offerings at statues of you. They swear they saw an evil circle your villa 3 times the night you refused to go out, that Venus herself whispered in Calpurnia's dream. Ridiculous, maybe. But Rome was built on ridiculous beliefs, and now you are the centerpiece of a new one. And so begins the quiet purge. Not blood, not yet, but names disappear from records. Men resign. Senators retire voluntarily. Governors are reassigned. The Senate starts showing up with fixed smiles and folded hands. No one wants to be the next man Caesar suspects. Meanwhile, you give the people bread and games and parades, and taxes cut just enough to make the mob cheer louder. You understand something now, something the conspirators never did. You don't seize power by force. You let the people beg you to take it. And beg they do. Petitions circulate. Let Caesar leave forever. Let Caesar be king, if only in name. Let Caesar be named son of Rome. You reject them all, publicly, nobly, but your smile says otherwise. Privately, you're making moves no one sees. You start sending feelers to Parthia. The East has always called to you. Glory, war, gold. You begin forming a new campaign, bigger than Gaul, more daring than the Rubicon. You want to carve your name into the very bones of the earth. But the conspirators, they're still alive. They're fractured, yes, disorganized, but not defeated. And now, they're desperate. Brutus avoids public life. He walks the markets under hooded cloak. People eye him with suspicion. Some spit, others whisper, coward. Rome has turned on him slowly. They feel cheated, not because he didn't kill Caesar, but because he almost did. Nobody likes a failed martyr. Cassius is worse. He drinks more, spends nights scribbling letters to foreign agents, trying to revive the ghost of the Republic with ink and desperation. But no one's listening anymore. The Republic has no face, no warmth. Caesar does. Still, in back rooms and shadowed villas, talk simmers. He must be stopped. Before he finishes what he started. Before he leaves for Parthia, and never comes back. Because if you go east and win, you return not as a man, but a god. And so, one night, as the torches flicker in your hall, a messenger arrives, nervous, pale. A plot, he says. Another one. You nod. You expected it. But here's the thing now. You're ready. Last time they caught you unaware. This time, you have spies in every hall, ears in every corner. The moment a senator frowns too long, his servant is already reporting it. You tighten your grip. Some call it tyranny. Others call it justice. And across the sea, Parthia watches too. They hear the rumors that the great Caesar survived death, that Rome is stirring again. That war might come not from rebellion, but from ambition. The legions are restless. They train harder, polish armor longer. They know something's coming, because Caesar is still breathing, and every breath is history rewritten. Chapter 4. The man who would not die. You don't just survive assassination. You become something else, something bigger. The senators stabbed at a man and missed. Now they stare at a legend walking. You begin to notice it. People lower their heads when they speak your name. Children imitate your stride in the street. Soldiers touch their swords when you pass, like it's a blessing. And you start dressing the part. Not in gold and jewels, that would be too obvious. No, you wear silence like armor. You speak less. You let others fill the air with speculation, fear, fall. You walk into the forum like a storm waiting to happen. People scatter, then circle back to watch. You know the game now. It's not politics anymore. It's prophecy. And you're writing your own. Meanwhile, across the Tiber. Brutus hasn't slept in days. He's not hiding anymore. He's unraveling. The city he tried to save has crowned his enemy in silence. He walks through streets where no one meets his eyes. Children throw rocks. His friends cross the street. One even spits at his feet. He thought killing Caesar would restore the Republic. Now he wonders if killing himself would. Cassius urges him to flee, to regroup in the east, to raise an army. We still have allies, he says. We still have a chance. But Brutus stares at his own hands too long these days, the same hands that once held a dagger. They loved him more after we failed, he mutters. We made him immortal. Back in the palace, you're preparing. Not just for war, for ascension. Because Rome has moved past kings, past emperors. The word Caesar means more than both now. You're no longer just a ruler. You're becoming a myth in real time. You summon your most loyal men. Antony, Lepidus, Octavian. Octavian watches everything. The boy is clever, cautious. He asks little but remembers much. Antony is fired, loud, brash, loyal to you for now. Lepidus is filler, a necessary shadow in the triangle you're shaping. Rome, you say to him, is no longer a city. It's a storm, and we will ride it east. The plan is clear: conquer Parthia. Return to Rome with spoils, prisoners, and stories of divine victory. By the time you return, the Senate will be dust, the Republic a memory, and the people begging you to never leave again. But across the sea, in Parthia, the king hears rumors. His scouts speak of a man who escaped death. A general touched by Jupiter, a name that makes even his veterans shift uneasily. He orders his sons to ready the cavalry. If Caesar is coming, the gods must be informed. The night before departure, you stand alone on your balcony, looking over Rome. The torches flicker. The streets pulse with the hush of expectation. You remember the dream Calpurnia once had of your statue bleeding, of Romans washing their hands in your blood. But that dream didn't come true, because you listened. And in doing so, you created a ripple in time so massive that even the gods are still watching, wondering what comes next. A soft knock. Octavian. Everything is ready, he says. The men are chanting already. They think it's a holy war. You nod. They're right, you reply. Then you do something unexpected. You turn, and for a moment, just a moment, you smile. Because you know something no one else does. Tomorrow, you won't just march toward Parthia. You'll march into legend. And nothing, not the Senate, not the conspirators, not even the stars, will stand in your way. Chapter 5. Rome disappears behind you like a dying ember. Once a cradle of your ambition, it now seems distant, like a dream from which you've awoken. The marble glimmers under twilight, shrinking into the horizon behind your army. You do not look back. What lies ahead isn't just conquest, it's theater. And you're the playwright, the actor, the audience, and increasingly the god. Every footfall eastward sounds like the ticking of fate's great timepiece. The ground itself seems to tremble at your approach, uncertain whether to resist or revere. Your legions, nearly 40,000 strong, move not like men but like myth. These are veterans of Gaul, sculpted by blood and sharpened by winter. They have buried comrades and kings, stormed rivers, forests, walls, and now they march through legend. They bear not just swords, but stories, not just armor, but awe. They follow no orders. They follow a man who should be dead. They follow a man who didn't go to the Senate that morning. They follow you. In the east, the stories arrive before your scouts. They say Caesar bleeds light now. I heard arrows vanish mid-flight if aimed at his heart. They say his eyes burn like twin suns and his voice cracks stone. They say he knows things. None of it's true, but none of it needs to be. The myth travels faster than the man, and it fights harder, strikes deeper, terrifies longer. When you cross into Asia Minor, it isn't with conquest. It is with revelation. Cities do not resist. They prepare banquets. Gold flows like wine. Statues are sculpted before you even arrive, already hollowed to hold incense and prayers. Governors kneel. Kings unbuckle their crowns. Temples ring with hymns bearing your name. You say little. You let your silence shout. Antony wants to sack a rebellious hill city, its banners torn and its people defiant. He sharpens his wrath like a blade, eager to spill blood. But you raise a single hand. No, you murmur, let them see mercy. It terrifies them more. And it does. They whisper your name like a spell, unsure whether it will summon salvation or doom. Fear cloaked in kindness, power hidden beneath peace. You become not just a general, but an oracle wrapped in armor. The gods, it seems, are watching you now, and possibly taking notes. But glory has a price. The gods are greedy. In the hills of Armenia, as the wind curls like a snake through dry ravines, disaster strikes. 3 cohorts vanish without a cry, smoke on the wind, crimson in the dirt, gone as if the earth swallowed them. Antony is fire. He bellows for blood, for vengeance, for walls to be torn down and infants dashed on stones. But you kneel in the dust. You press your palm to the earth and feel it. Wrongness. This wasn't local, you murmur. This wasn't desperation. Your eyes lift to the east. Parthia. The word is heavy, ancient, unforgiven. Here it is, not just a battle, but a reckoning. You smile. Finally, a worthy opponent. Back in Rome, the air grows thick with unease. The Senate can barely sit straight, reports in trembling hands. Not just victories, miracles. A comet splits the sky, trailing silver fire like a dagger across the heavens. A newborn speaks in tongues. A bull refuses to die in the arena. Priests declare it divine favor. The people no longer asked, what if Caesar had died? They asked, what if he never does? In exile, Brutus reads the scrolls with shaking hands. Every tale corrodes his resolve. He once struck with righteousness. Now he prays for shadows. He sees your silhouette dancing in flame, hovering over cities you haven't yet reached. You are no longer a man to be stopped. You are something else. You are an era. Then you reach the Tigris. Beyond it lies Parthia, dusty, proud, cruel. The land that humiliated Crassus, that turned Roman banners into torches, that filled his skull with molten gold and offered it to their gods. But you are not Crassus. You stand on the banks of that ancient river, armor gleaming like prophecy, and address your men. We're not here to win a battle, you say, your voice quiet but undeniable. You let the pause settle like dust. We're here to erase a humiliation. The legion answers not with words, but with thunder. They strike shields, roar like lions, chant your name like it's older than Rome itself. Then comes Ctesiphon, a city wrapped in silence. Until it isn't. The Parthians scream from dunes like wraiths. Their cavalry shreds the horizon. Arrows fill the sky like locusts. The sun disappears behind war. But your lines do not break. They flow. They bend. They consume. Antony, burning with the old bloodlust, breaks their left like a hammer against glass. Octavian, colder, more precise, holds the center. His eyes don't blink. And you walk the field, like a gardener tending roses. Arrows fall around you, yet none touch. To your soldiers, it is divine. To your enemies, it is doom incarnate. By nightfall, the Parthian king flees, his pride shattered and crown abandoned. You do not chase him. Instead, you collect their weapons. You melt them down, and from them you build a golden altar. You light it yourself, torch in hand. And as it blazes into the stars, you say, let the gods see what Rome remembers, and what she does not forgive. The men kneel. some weep. Even Antony is silent. You've done it. You've avenged Crassus. You've conquered the unconquerable. And now your eyes turn west, to Rome, not as a home to return to, but as a stage, a final act, because you're not going back as a man, you're going back as legend, as prophecy fulfilled, as something Rome can kneel before or be crushed beneath. You are not Caesar anymore. You are something else, something eternal, something divine. Chapter 6, Return of the Living God. The wind changes the moment you turn west. It's not just the direction, it's the world itself that bends. Trees lean, birds scatter, and the clouds roll heavier and slower, as if burdened with omens. Even the mountain winds seem to whisper the same message through pine and stone. He's coming back. But the Caesar who now rides toward Rome is not the man who left. That Caesar blood, that Caesar doubted, that Caesar slept. Now, after Parthia, after avenging the blood of Crassus, after walking through storms of fire and steel untouched, you are not a man. You are the answer to a question the world didn't know it was asking. You are the dream that refused to die. Your legions feel it too. They no longer march like soldiers. They process like monks, faces solemn, eyes wide. They wear your emblem like a relic, each footstep a drumbeat of devotion. The sound of 40,000 boots on the earth no longer means war. It means worship. No one disobeys. You don't command anymore, you manifest. A nod from you, and a city surrenders. A glance, and kings fall to their knees. Antony, loyal but ever irreverent, once tries to joke. Around a campfire, with wine in hand, he chuckles. Maybe you should declare yourself a god while you're still alive. You don't laugh. You don't even turn your head. You stare into the dark and say softly, "Who says I'm not?" Antony doesn't joke again. Back in Rome, the Senate meets in convulsions of panic. Their words are sharp but hollow, falling flat against the weight of fate. You can't let him return. He'll crown himself emperor. He'll dissolve the Senate, raise temples, build statues of himself taller than Jupiter. But every decree comes too late. In the streets, they're already chanting your name. Bakers shape loaves into your likeness. Children stage make-believe triumphs in alleyways with sticks and borrowed tunics. Women plait laurel leaves into each other's hair as if preparing for your arrival is a sacred rite. Priests rewrite their prayers. The augurs stop performing divinations altogether. The stars are already decided, one whispers. Why pretend they're not? The city smells different now. Not of olive oil and sweat, but of prophecy. You are not coming back as a man. You're returning as inevitability. At the Rubicon again. The water is cold, but you don't feel it. There is no pause, no hesitation, no famous phrase uttered to the sky, no looking back. This is not a crossing of rebellion. This is a return of revelation. You walk through the river, and for a moment, it feels as if time itself holds its breath. Somewhere, distant thunder. Somewhere, a wolf howls, then falls silent. The men behind you cross with awe in their eyes, as though stepping through the veil into myth itself. Rome prepares. Walls are manned. Gates locked. Shields polished. Orders shouted. The Senate sends messages into every quarter of the city. Prepare. Hold. Resist. But when your standards rise on the horizon, nothing happens. No battle. No clash of swords or defiance in the streets. The gates open. One by one, the guards drop to their knees. Not from fear, but from belief. The people flood into the streets, weeping, laughing, singing songs they didn't know they knew. They tear apart their own robes to lay them at your feet. They don't welcome a general. They don't welcome a dictator. They welcome salvation. Voices rise in perfect, spontaneous unity. Si is our victor. Si is our I am in or to ye Elias. The senators who once conspired against you hide in their villas, whispering to marble statues that no longer seem so silent. Some flee, others tremble behind locked doors. Even Brutus watches, cloaked in shadows. He once believed in a republic, in freedom, in principle. Now he watches you walk through Rome with sunlight pouring from your robes like a halo. He feels it in his bones. How do you kill a man the world has already deified? You enter the forum alone. No guards, no escort, no sword. Only robes of white, pure and flowing, catching the morning light like silk spun from dawn itself. The crowd falls silent, not out of fear, but reverence. You raise your hands, not high, not dramatically, just enough. And then you speak, quiet as a prayer. Rome is not broken. It is being remade. No one breathes. And then, thunder, not from the sky, but from the people. A roar of love, fear, and surrender so loud it rattles the marble beneath your feet. This is not a coup. This is a coronation written in the marrow of time. You do not take the title of king. Too crude, too mortal. Instead, you let them name you things older than language. Pater Temporis, Father of Time. Vox Martis, Voice of Mars. Qui erat et erit, He who was and will be. The temples ring with new hymns. Statues of Jupiter begin to resemble you. Poets stop writing epics, because the epic is walking among them. At your first festival, a comet streaks across the sky, blood red and brilliant. The priests call it the Star of Caesar. You don't deny it. Why would you? But later, when the feasts are over, when the torches die and the city sleeps beneath your watchful gaze, you sit in silence on the Palatine Hill. The city spreads before you like a dream realized, a Rome reborn. But your hands are cold. In your chest, beneath the armor and the divine names, there is a weight. Not fear, not regret. Something heavier. You look up at the stars, and you know the gods are watching. They gave you the storm, the sword, the crown. But they are jealous beings. They never share power for long. You have claimed the world. You have bent time. But you know how stories like this end. And for the first time since Parthia, you wonder, have you walked too far into the divine? Because if gods rise, they must fall. And if man becomes myth, then who writes the end of his story? Chapter 7. A throne above the clouds. It begins with a statue, taller than any temple, heavier than any truth, crafted from marble so pure it glows blue in moonlight. It rises above the forum like a second sun, your sun, casting long shadows over the very Senate that once claimed to govern Rome. Crowned not with gold, but with stars, carved orbs above the head, each one a constellation renamed in your honor. The people don't just admire it. They worship it. They say it was built by the Senate. They say the priests demanded it. They say the merchants paid for it, and the mob blessed it. All of them clawed for credit, scrambling to be the first to prove their loyalty, the first to kneel before marble before they knelt before you in person. You never asked for it, but you let them build it, because you knew faith isn't forced, it's fed. By night, the torches dance across its carved features, your features. The jaw, the brow, the calm, unreachable gaze. The statue doesn't just look down at the city. It looks past it. Children leave wildflowers at its feet. Mothers whisper prayers beneath it. Veterans press trembling lips to its base as if it could grant them peace. One man claims to have seen it cry. Another swears he heard it speak. None of it's true, but none of it matters. Rome no longer believes in Caesar the man. Rome now believes in Caesar the miracle. And you. You let them. The Senate tries once. just once. A trembling motion to limit your term, to restore the old elections, to recall a past no one dares speak of above a whisper. You attend the session yourself. You enter in silence, white robes trailing like mist, your eyes unreadable. You take no throne. You simply stand. And you listen. No interruptions, no fury, just stillness. When the final senator's voice cracks and fades, you speak. Just one sentence. Rome has voted. They chose me. It is not a rebuke. It is a funeral bell. The motion dies before the ink dries. The senator who proposed it resigns within the week. His name is never spoken again. You change everything. Because why shouldn't you? You reform the calendar again. Why should time itself not reflect your will? You add new festivals, sacred days, months named not for gods or emperors, but for moments you dreamed into being. You create a new priesthood, the Divini Caesari. They wear black. Their faces are veiled. They speak only when permitted. Their purpose, to interpret your silences, to whisper your intentions, to perform miracles in your name, or claim them when others do. Their power grows in the alleys and the temples, in the markets and the homes. Where once Rome had many gods, now it has one, who walks among them. And in temples once reserved for Mars, for Jupiter, for the old names of thunder and sky, your face begins to appear, not to replace them, but to join them. A trinity of the old and the new, a holy sun rising among forgotten fathers. And no lightning strikes to stop it. Across the empire, the world bends. In Gaul, warlords burn their old totems and carve your sigil into their chests. In Egypt, Cleopatra sends golden obelisks inscribed with prayers to you, and signs her letters not as queen, but servant of the eternal slain. In the sands of Judea, a strange sect arises. They do not call you God, not quite. They call you a shadow, a foreshadowing, a sign that a greater divinity is on its way. Historians will argue forever. Did you nurture them in secret? Or have their prophets already disappeared beneath the Tiber's waters? Either way, the name of Caesar now travels faster than the legions ever could. But power, true power, casts a long shadow. And in that shadow, Brutus sharpens a blade. You've always known. You could have ended him at any time. But you let him live. Out of pity, curiosity, pride, or perhaps something colder, you wanted him to see it all. To feel every statue rise like a nail in his convictions. To watch the Republic not die, but transform into something he never dreamed and cannot stop. He watches the city kneel. He watches the temples turn. He watches the very sky echo with your name. And still he sharpens. One night, the dream returns. You stand in the forum, but it's burning. Statues crack and fall. The marble version of you, its crown of stars broken, bleeds from stone eyes. The people are silent. There is no cheering, no chants. Only smoke and silence. Then you see yourself. Older, hunched, your eyes dim, your hands trembling. No longer a god, just a man. And the people walk past you blind, as if you were never there. You wake gasping. A storm crackles distantly. Rome sleeps, but it sleeps uneasily, because even gods must sleep, and even gods must bleed. So you begin preparations, not for war, not for battle, for forever. You begin to speak of succession, but not of a republic, not of dynasties. Something different, something divine. A Caesar who lives on, not through blood or name, but through office. An immortal steed, an undying voice. A throne passed not from man to man, but from incarnation to incarnation. A church of empire. The people love it. The Senate trembles. But it's too late. You've become something beyond repeal. A fixed point. A truth. Like the sun. Like the tide. Like gravity. Still, Brutus waits. He watches the people fall to their knees. He hears the stars renamed in your honor. He hears the chants bounce between buildings once filled with debate and dissent. He watches lovers whisper your name in place of the old gods. And he weeps. Not for you. For what you stole. For what Rome could have been. For the republic that died not with swords, but with statues. But even Brutus must admit, you did the impossible. You stayed home that day. You refused the Senate's knife. You refused to die. And in doing so, you changed nothing. And so you changed everything. Chapter 8. The ice that never came. The calendar shifts. The days pass like slow water through marble fingers. And March arrives, just as it always has. You wake with the IDs written on your mind, not in fear, not in superstition, but in memory. The old you would have laughed. But this new you, the one carved in marble, whispered in temples, remembers everything. The forum bustles as usual. Senators shuffle in their robes, pale and perfumed, carrying scrolls no one will read. The streets are crowded with citizens murmuring your name like a litany. Merchants peddle coins stamped with your face, statues with your stance, wine bottles bearing the mark of your reign. And still, there he is, the soothsayer, standing beneath the archway, as he always has, just as the stories foretold. He meets your eyes. His voice is quieter than legend remembers, but the words are the same. Beware the IEs of March. The moment pauses, the air stills. Then the IDs arrive. And nothing happens. No steel beneath silk. No betrayal. No blood spilled on the marble. Just silence. You pass him on the steps of the Senate. He does not speak again. His head bows low. And somehow, he will never speak again. Brutus leaves Rome. He does not say goodbye. No letters. No farewell speech. No attempt at redemption. He simply vanishes into a quiet villa tucked into the hills beyond Latium. He walks its gardens, writes letters to no one, watches the olives ripen and fall. Sometimes in your quietest hours you wonder what he's thinking. Sometimes you imagine he dreams of daggers still. Other times you wonder if he simply let go. Not that it matters, because you did it. You rewrote fate. The story no longer ends in a knife's embrace. The tragedy was canceled. The prophecy defanged. The stars themselves shifted their paths to accommodate your will. You survived. And in surviving, you killed the Republic far more completely than any blade ever could. Now, it doesn't die in fire. It dies in celebration. In parades, in chiseled honorifics, in temples where senators kneel beside slaves, offering incense in your name. They wear your face as pins on their cloaks. They chant your name in the curia like it's a sacred word. Old banners of the Republic are quietly taken down. New ones rise, thunderbolt inside laurel. No one calls it a coup. They call it peace. Children learn your name before they know their own. Before they learn Jupiter or Mars. Even before they learn the word Rome. Your birth is rewritten. No longer from Aurelia and Gaius, but from prophecy. From starlight. From divine necessity. The past bends to your will. Your youth is remembered as a pilgrimage. Your rivals become footnotes. Your enemies erased entirely. Your victories are no longer victories. They are fulfillments. You remove elections altogether. A ceremony is held. The people cheer. There are no protests, no riots. Just open palms and weeping eyes. You don't need to rule forever. You only need to rule long enough that no one remembers what it was like before you. And that moment arrives faster than you thought. But in private, you change. you feel it first in the silence. In the halls once alive with debate and noise, no one challenges you anymore. No one raises their voice. They obey. But you start to wonder, is it loyalty or fear? You walk the corridors of the Palatine, and they bow too quickly. Their smiles too rehearsed, their silence too sharp. At night, you still dream of that other path. The blade, the betrayal, the applause. And sometimes you miss it. You miss the tragedy, the sacrifice, the finality. There's something almost beautiful in being struck down at your height, eternal in marble, untarnished by time. But instead, you're still here, alive. A god that cannot die, a god that ages. Rome shifts around you. Temples to the old gods are repurposed quietly, reverently. Your face appears beside theirs, then above theirs, then instead of theirs. Your name is not spoken anymore, it is sung. Your laws are not enforced, they are believed. Your will is not questioned, it is divine. And so Rome forgets. It forgets how to argue. It forgets how to choose. It forgets how to be anything but yours. And far away, another watches. A boy. Born in a modest villa, quiet, watchful, too intelligent for his age. Gaius Octavius. Your blood. Your hair. Your shadow. You see the ambition in his eyes, the careful way he studies you. The way he speaks just rarely enough to remain underestimated. You groom him slowly. Whisper to him. Let him stand beside you during festivals. Let him watch the Senate bow. Let him feel the weight of empire before he must wear it. But he never asks for your death. He never raises his voice. He waits. Not for rebellion. Not for inheritance. But for something stronger than death. Your permission. Because gods do not die, and they do not abdicate. So he waits, and waits, and learns. Meanwhile, the Senate becomes a stage. Actors in robes reciting lines no one hears. Those who speak against you disappear, some quietly, some publicly. Some simply fade into silence like echoes that forget how to return. Even Cicero, the great orator, the defender of the old ways, falters. He no longer writes speeches. He no longer speaks. He scribbles bitter thoughts onto scrolls he burns before the ink dries. And you stand alone on the Capitol line. The wind stirs your robes. The sun sets in a sky painted blood orange and silver. Below you, the city glows. The empire breathes your name. You raise your hand, not to command, not to bless, but just to feel the wind move through your fingers. It smells like dust, and time, and memory, and you whisper so quiet that even the gods must strain to hear. Was this the right path? The wind does not answer. It never does. You return to your chamber. The ceiling is painted with stars, your stars, new constellations reshaped in your image. The throne beneath you is stone, unmoving, heavy. And there, in the deepest silence, you feel the truth. There are no knives, no traitors, no IDs, just you. And a crown that weighs too much for any man, even one who was never meant to die. Chapter 9, the conspirators' trial of the century. The city of Rome buzzes like a disturbed hive, stirred not by battle, not by revolt, but by something stranger. A trial. Not just any trial. The trial. Brutus. Cassius. The ghosts of the IDs that never came. They walk now, not as assassins, not as heroes, but as defendants, dragged from villas and exile and forced to face the city they once swore to save. The Senate, normally a stage of bowed heads and soft obedience, transforms overnight. The Curia is reborn as a coliseum of law, filled with scribes, priests, plebeians pressed against pillars, even legionnaires on leave pretending to be accidentally nearby. Some arrive for justice, others for blood, most for the spectacle. You arrive last. No guards, no crown, just white robes, a quiet gaze, and the silence that makes senators stutter in your presence. You don't speak. You don't need to, because your presence is the verdict before the trial even begins. Act I, the prosecution. They waste no time. Scrolls are unfurled, witnesses lined up like mosaic tiles. The prosecution paints the conspirators in heavy strokes. Brutus, the Judas of Jupiter. Cassius, the mind of the murder. Others, silent daggers in waiting. They summon testimony from tavern servers, estate slaves, ex-legionaries, fortune tellers. Even a poet from the Suburra claims Brutus once mocked Caesar in verse, though no one remembers the lines. Then comes the strangest witness, a soothsayer's apprentice. Eyes wild, voice trembling, claims he overheard Brutus and Cassius in a tavern, speaking treason while mixing their wine with crocodile dung, supposedly for good luck or protection or sunburn, depending on which myth you prefer. Senators laugh nervously. The crowds don't care if it's real. It feels true. And in politics, that's enough. Act II, the defense. Brutus stands. He has aged. His beard is longer. His tunic simple. But his eyes? Clear, quiet, heavy. He speaks with no scroll. I did not kill a man, he says. I killed a tyranny. Silence. He does not beg. He does not weep. He does not bend. He simply stands in the ruin of what he once believed and lets the crowd decide if conviction still matters when the world has moved on. Cassius is less poetic. He snarls about divine law, tradition, the republic, the gods, the rot of ambition, the horror of worshiping a man as if you were the sun. But he says it all to a city that already has temples in your name. Their words hang in the air like incense, familiar, and already forgotten. The trial is not about guilt. Not really. It's not about the IDs. Not about whether Brutus would have struck, or whether Cassius sharpened the blade. It's about something far more dangerous. Who controls the story? The people chant your name outside. Inside, the senators whisper behind scrolls. One asks, why did Caesar spare them? Another murmurs, was this mercy or theater? No one knows. Because you sit in the gallery, not the throne. And you say nothing, which makes them wonder everything. The verdict comes, not death, not prison. Exile. Brutus is sent back to his villa among the cypresses, where he watches the sun rise and fall over olive trees that know nothing of empires. Cassius flees east, toward the Parthian edge. Others scatter, some vanish into history, their names swept beneath Caesar's shadow like dust under marble. Some say it was leniency, others strategy. Some say you wanted them alive to watch what you would build, to suffer the long agony of defeat without death to redeem them. You never confirm. You never deny. You simply stand and leave before the sentencing scroll is even sealed. The aftermath. Rome breathes. Not relief, not peace, but something worse. Acceptance. Justice was served, they say. Or maybe postponed. Or maybe performed. But the mob is satisfied. For now. The soldiers grumble. They wanted heads. Your generals watch you closely, eyes tight, ambitions coiled. The Senate exudes loyalty, but loyalty in politics is just well-dressed fear. And you smile. Because sometimes the sharpest blade is patience. But there are ripples. Historians will never agree. Was the exile a punishment or a gift? Did the conspirators accept their end, or merely pause for the next attempt? Some claim Brutus took up gardening and philosophy, living quietly until old age. Others say he began writing scrolls, coded, dangerous ones, smuggled across the empire. One rumor even claims he trained assassins in secret. No one knows, because you controlled the story. And if history is a stage, then you are no longer just its star. You are its playwright. Rome moves on, but it moves differently. Slower, quieter, with statues on every corner, with laurel crowns woven into law, with prayers that mention your name before Jupiter's. But beneath the cobblestones, the old voices still echo. Faint, but alive. The Republic isn't just dead, it's buried. And the tombstone reads, "Justice served." But some still wonder. They speak in shadows and whispers carried by market winds. What if Caesar had gone to the Senate that day? What if he hadn't stayed home? But you always knew. Because power is a story told by survivors. And survival is the greatest rewrite of all. Chapter 10, The Rise of Octavian, Shadow and Light. The city breathes a new kind of tension now. The trial of the century may be over, but its ashes still glow in the political winds, smoldering with questions too dangerous to ask aloud. And into that heat, that hush, he arrives. Gaius Octavius, your great-nephew, your adopted son, your chosen heir. But he doesn't ride in on a golden chariot. He doesn't summon trumpets or toss coins to the crowd. He simply appears, unannounced, unarmed, utterly inevitable. You've watched him from the start. He was never the loud one, never the one to bang a fist or shout to the heavens. Octavian waits. He watches. He learns. Like a shadow growing at dusk. Where others grasped for power, he absorbed it. Where Antony boomed, laughed, and postured like the sun itself, Octavian whispered his plans into dark corners and let others do the shouting. He arrived in Rome alone, but the silence followed him like a crown. The Senate noticed first. When he spoke, their backs straightened, their brows furrowed. There was something unsettling about the way he measured his words. He didn't speak to win favor. He spoke to build inevitability. Your influence, his armor. Octavian knew what to do with your legacy. He named himself Caesar's son not just in blood, but in divinity. He began referring to you not as my father, but as the god Caesar. The people ate it up. They wanted to believe that your bloodline carried not just Roman ambition, but Olympian fire. And Octavian? He wore it like armor. He paraded your image, not his own. He let your name carry his campaigns before his sword ever did. Brilliance disguised as reverence. Antony, the blazing star. Antony noticed too. He, the storm-blooded general, the lion of war, the man who once stood at your side like a brother forged in battle. He had expected to inherit the empire through sheer momentum. But Octavian's silence carved deeper than Antony's roar, and so the dance began. Two men circling, neither daring to draw first blood. Octavian bowed when necessary, smiled when required, but behind those pale eyes, calculation. Where Antony saw a rival, Octavian saw a chess piece, the battle for Rome's soul. Rome itself became the prize in a quiet war of shadows. You watched from your marble sanctum, part spectator, part god, part architect. You never lifted a finger. You didn't need to. Octavian was doing exactly what you once did, but better. He courted the people with laws and grain. He seduced the Senate with humility and precision. He took veterans under his wing, fed them your name, and then promised them futures under his. He didn't just inherit your power. He rebranded it. And still, there were enemies beyond the Tiber. Brutus, Cassius, the last sparks of the Republic. Ghosts you had spared. Flames Octavian now needed to extinguish. He tried diplomacy. He offered amnesty. He extended his hand. They slapped it away. So he made a fist. The Battle of Philippi. It was there, in the midst of Macedonia, that Rome chose its future. Octavian and Antony joined forces, if only for a moment, to crush the past. The battle raged like prophecy. Cassius fell first, on his own sword, when he thought all was lost. Brutus held longer, always the idealist, always the tragic flame. But even he saw the end in the eyes of his soldiers. They no longer fought for freedom. They fought for Caesar's son. When the smoke cleared, the Republic was not defeated. It was forgotten. Octavian returned to Rome not as a conqueror, but as the future made flesh. The passing of the torch. You stood on the marble steps of the Forum as he arrived. You didn't embrace him. You didn't speak. You simply looked at him. And in that gaze, an empire passed from one legend to the next. There was no ceremony, no throne exchange, no divine lightning or priestly decree. Just a moment. Quiet, final, eternal. But you are still there. You don't fade. You don't vanish. You are in the architecture now, in the laws etched in bronze, in the prayers whispered before harvest, in the stars renamed after your rise. You are Rome's gravity, and Octavian, he orbits you like a second sun. But one day, the orbits will shift. He will reshape the Republic into something new, an empire in name, not just form. Equals. Rome breathes differently now. Coins are minted with both your faces. Temples rise in your honor and his. The Divini Caesari now speak of the two flames, the eternal Father and the anointed Son. Even the people, once restless with fear and awe, now speak your names like blessings carved into the wind. But something stirs beneath the surface. A new myth forming. Octavian's myth. It begins with you, but it ends somewhere else. And still, Rome waits. Not for a battle, not for another trial, but for the answer to the question every empire must one day ask: when gods no longer bleed, can they still be obeyed? Time passes. Years blur into decades. Your face appears on every coin. Temples stretch higher than ever. The Senate? A museum, a memory. Children aren't taught to question anymore. They're taught to quote you. Veni, vidi, vixi. I came. I saw. I lived. You are no longer a man. You are law. You are Rome. You are forever. But forever is fragile. One morning, an earthquake cracks the marble statue bearing your likeness. A priest claims it's an omen. He disappears the next day. Some whisper the gods are angry. Others whisper the gods are you. You live long enough to see things you never wanted. The rise of false Caesars. The burning of cities in your name. The worship of you, not as a man, not as a hero, but as a god-king whose will can't be questioned. You realize you were supposed to be a bridge, not the destination. A symbol of transition, not the end of history. In a rare moment of solitude, you visit the Senate chamber. It's a museum now. Tour guides recite lines from your speeches. Glass cases hold the daggers once meant for your ribs. They call it the day the Republic lived. You stare at them in silence. You wonder, would it have been better if you hadn't stayed home that day? If Rome had wept and moved on? Centuries pass. The empire you forged stretches too far, too fast. Your name is whispered in tongues you never knew. Statues fall. Rebellions rise. Emperors come and go. Some claim to be your reincarnation. Others burn your effigies. Eventually, even your story becomes uncertain. Was Julius Caesar a tyrant? A savior? A god? A myth? Some say you never existed at all, just a symbol made flesh for a desperate people. Others claim you walk the earth still, ageless, watching, waiting. But in the end, Rome falls, not in fire, not in blood, but in silence. The people forget how to speak Latin, forget how to read marble inscriptions, forget what the Republic even was. But your name? It lingers. Caesar, a title now, not just for emperors, but for kings, kaisers, czars. Every crown born from yours. You never died, because you never had to. One final scene. The ruins of Rome. Centuries later. A lone traveler walks among broken columns. She sees a cracked stone, half buried in ivy. She brushes it off, reads the faint, worn carving. Caesar. She asks the guide, who was he? The guide shrugs. Some say, the man who tried to live forever. Some say, he did. Fade to black. History closes. The ID's passed. But you remained. And so the world changed. Forever. Chapter 11. The battle for the soul of Rome. The streets of Rome pulse with a strange electricity. Not quite peace. Not quite war. A city caught between thunder and silence. Between what it remembers and what it now must become. The banners wave Octavian's name, but your shadow stretches across every column, every coin, every prayer whispered at dusk. The people call him Caesar Augustus, but they still kneel at your statue. He is not just your hero. He is your consequence. Yet even gods cast shadows they cannot predict. Antony, your old friend, your lion-hearted general, the man who once followed you through Gaul, through fire, through rebellion. He does not bow to Octavian, not out of pride, out of belief that the fire still lives in him, that the old ways, the thunderous charge of loyalty and honor are not yet ash. But ambition is a hungry god, and it chooses its priests poorly. Antony finds solace, perhaps even salvation, in Egypt, and in Cleopatra, the queen and the general. Their union shakes Rome like an omen. Cleopatra is no ordinary queen. She speaks 9 languages, rules like a philosopher, and moves through palaces like a serpent wrapped in silk and prophecy. Together, they become something dangerous. Not just lovers, not just rulers, but symbols of a new world where Rome is no longer the sun, but merely one star in a foreign sky. Whispers flood the forum. Antony wears Egyptian robes now. He kneels to Isis, not Jupiter. They've crowned themselves gods. And though you never speak publicly, the silence around your chambers becomes a sort of judgment. Rome listens, and it chooses. The rise of propaganda. Octavian does not attack Antony with swords. He attacks him with ideas. Scrolls appear in every alley, every villa, every Senate bench. Antony is a traitor. Cleopatra is a witch. Their children? Abominations. A new war begins, not on the battlefield, but in the theater of belief. Octavian paints himself as the son of divinity, the heir to Caesar, the guardian of Roman virtue. And Antony? As a fallen hero bewitched by the East. It works. The Senate rallies, the mob chants. Even generals who once fought beside Antony begin to hesitate. Rome is choosing not just a victor, but a vision. The final reckoning. Actium. The sea glitters like a blade. The Battle of Actium is not just a clash of fleets. It is the last trial of Rome's soul. Octavian's forces, led by the brilliant Agrippa, encircle Antony and Cleopatra's ships off the western coast of Greece. The wind howls like a dying god. Ships groan. Fire leaps. Arrows darken the sky. At the height of battle, Cleopatra's flagship turns, sails catching wind not toward glory, but toward escape. Antony sees her go, and follows. Some say it was love. Others say it was fate recognizing its defeat. Octavian does not celebrate wildly. He does not gloat. He simply watches the sea swallow the last breath of resistance. When he returns to Rome, there are no more enemies, only echoes. The emperor ascends. You watch from your marble chamber, eyes reflecting a city reshaped in your image, and now led by a man shaped by your legend. Octavian takes no title of king. He knows better. Instead, he becomes Princeps' first citizen, a name humble in sound, imperial in weight. The Senate, now a chorus of nodding heads, offers him the title Augustus. Not a crown, but a halo. The Republic dies without a scream. Just silence. And signatures. You fading, but not forgotten. Rome stands taller than ever. Its roads stretch like veins into the earth. Its legions march like gods of thunder. And yet, something in you softens. Not with regret, with realization. You are no longer needed to guide the storm. The story you began, the question you once posed with your life, has answered itself. The Republic is not broken. It is transformed. And you? You are not the sun anymore. You are the constellation above it. Statues of you stand in every province. Coins still bear your profile, though Augustus grows larger. Your name is whispered like a charm against chaos. Temples still light candles to you, though fewer each year. And in the palace on the Palatine Hill, Augustus keeps your mask among his relics. A reminder, a warning, a prayer. The soul of Rome, it never belonged to one man, but perhaps, just for a moment, it belonged to two. To the one who built the myth, and the one who learned how to wear it. As Augustus gives his first speech to the Senate as emperor, you listen from the shadows. He speaks of peace, of destiny, of Rome eternal. The words are familiar. You smile. Not out of pride, out of understanding. Rome did not want a king. It wanted a story. And you gave it one so powerful, it consumed the world. You rise from your seat. You walk alone through the stone corridors that once echoed with ambition. You place your hand on the wall, feeling the pulse of the city. And in that moment, you realize you are no longer Caesar. You are the idea of Caesar. The soul of Rome has chosen. It is no longer torn. It is reborn. And your voice will never leave it. Because when gods are made for men, they do not die. They echo. You can almost taste the tension in the air as Rome teeters on the edge of transformation. The city's once vibrant streets, where debates and political banter filled every corner, now simmer with a quiet unease. You feel it in the way people glance over their shoulders, in the whispered conversations fading when you approach. The Republic you once knew is crumbling, and its death throes echo in every step you take. Octavian, your chosen heir and the embodiment of your legacy, has claimed the title Augustus, a nod to his divine patronage. But power never settles easily in Rome. Beneath the surface of his steady rise, a storm brews, one you've watched unfold like a silent puppeteer. Mark Antony, once your trusted lieutenant, now stands at a crossroads. His alliance with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, sends ripples of anxiety through the heart of Rome. You watch as whispers flood the streets. Is Antony seduced by a foreign queen? Has Egypt's charm corrupted our champion? The tension is palpable, and even you sense the complexity of Antony's position, torn between love, loyalty, and ambition. Historians still argue whether Antony's downfall was a consequence of personal choices or a meticulously orchestrated fall, perhaps even subtly guided by you. Did you manipulate the shadows, ensuring his decline without lifting a sword? Or did fate itself weave the threads? Meanwhile, Octavian plays his role to perfection. His propaganda machine churns ceaselessly, painting Antony as a traitor, a man who turned his back on Rome for the allure of Eastern riches and seductive promises. You see how Octavian's rhetoric seeps into the minds of the people, how the Senate rallies behind him, eager to reclaim Rome's soul from what they now deem a corrupting influence. But this isn't just a battle of words. It's a battle for the very heart of the empire. The tension culminates at the Battle of Actium, where Octavian's navy faces Antony and Cleopatra's forces off the rocky coast of Greece. You can almost hear the clash of ships before the battle even begins, the scrape of oars, the creak of timber, the roar of soldiers ready for the fight. The sun rises on that fateful day, glinting off bronze armor and rippling sails. As the two fleets converge, the air thickens with smoke and salt. Fire and chaos erupt. Arrows blot out the sun, and the cries of men mix with the crashing waves. You see Antony's forces falter. Cleopatra, ever the enigma, slips away in a swift galley, leaving behind a legacy both romantic and tragic. Antony, wounded in spirit and flesh, follows her retreat. Octavian's victory is decisive. Rome's civil wars, those endless cycles of betrayal and bloodshed, draw to a close. You stand on the sidelines, a shadow watching history's final act unfold. Octavian, once a boy under your wing, now commands the empire with an iron will cloaked in divine favor. But the soul of Rome remains fragile. You remember the Republic, the messy, noisy, imperfect beast, and you wonder if what you forged is truly better. As you watch the new emperors rise, you fade into the background, your legacy both a foundation and a ghost. Rome breathes a new breath, but you know the story is far from over. The empire begins, and history turns its page once again. Chapter 12, Augustus' New Order, building an empire. The dust settles, but Rome is still shaking. Not from war, from change. You watch from your marble perch, half-forgotten god, half-immortal architect, as Gaius Octavius, your heir, steps into history fully formed. He has dropped the name Octavian now. The Senate has granted him a new title, Augustus. Majestic, sacred, beyond mortal reach. He doesn't take the crown. He doesn't need to. He wears power like perfume, invisible but overwhelming. The illusion of choice. The Republic still lives on paper. The Senate still convenes. The people still vote. Tribunes still speak. But all of it is ritual now. A theater of smoke and stone. The true script is written elsewhere, in palaces, in military camps, in the quiet chambers of Augustus' mind. He offers Rome a deal it cannot refuse. Peace in exchange for obedience. Stability in exchange for silence. And the people accept. Because after decades of blood and betrayal, Rome is tired of shouting. Bricks to marble. You once said you found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble. But Augustus, he makes that literal. Temples rise. Forums expand. A new imperial center gleams like a promise cast in stone. The Arapacis, altar of peace, stands as a monument not just to calm, but to control. Even time bends. The calendar reforms you began are finalized under him. A month bears your name. Then another takes his. Julius, Augustus, the two pillars of eternity. The empire breathes. From the wind-swept cliffs of Britannia to the golden sands of Egypt, legions march under the banner you once raised. Rome is no longer a city. It is a world. The Pax Romana begins. A peace held not by trees, but by spears. Roads stretch outward like veins, carrying trade, law, language, and memory. 1,000 markets hum with commerce. 1,000 amphitheaters roar with spectacle. 1,000 soldiers dream of promotion, land, and the distant echo of your name. But it is Augustus they serve now. Your shadow, his torch. Statues of you rise across the empire. Not as a man, but as Divus Julius. Divine Julius. Temples bear your likeness beside Jupiter's. Priests light incense at your altar. Coins bear your face in profile. Farmers pray to your name for harvest. Augustus does not fight this. He feeds it, because your divinity makes his power legitimate. A man cannot rule the world. but the son of a god can. Yet you see the game. You taught him how to play it. His humility is a robe, not a truth. He calls himself Princeps, first citizen. But everyone knows better. He rules absolutely, quietly, efficiently, and with a precision that even you, in your most daring days, never fully mastered. Fractures beneath the marble, but beneath the polished veneer cracks form. The old families, the Optimates, the Scipios, the Fabi, chafe at their new irrelevance. Senators murmur over wine cups and fall silent when guards approach. Soldiers loyal to Antony's memory still toast him in secret. Poets denied the freedom of satire, craft verses and coded metaphors, hiding rebellion in rhyme. Even the people, grateful as they are, begin to forget how to choose, how to argue, how to think outside imperial lines. The Republic is not dead. It's fossilized, perfectly preserved in law, hollowed out in spirit. The cost of peace. Augustus offers Rome everything it thought it wanted. But you can't help but wonder, is this peace? Or is it the stillness of something caged? Rome thrives, but it no longer roars, it obeys. And you, once the storm that broke the chains of tradition, now watch as those same chains are remade in gold. The final transformation, history begins to change you. Your childhood becomes myth. Your rise becomes prophecy. Even your enemies are rewritten. Brutus now a tragic fool, Pompey a necessary stepping stone. Your flaws are smoothed away. Your death, which never came, becomes the ghost that stalks every generation after. Because without your martyrdom, Rome never had closure. Only evolution. And as Augustus cements his dynasty, carefully selecting heirs, pruning rivals, and weaving new gods into the civic fabric, you feel the weight of something heavier than power. Permanence. You did not live forever, but your name did. The God who watches. In the quiet hours of night, you walked unseen. Through the Forum, through the new marble avenues, past altars glowing with candlelight. People still speak your name, but not like they used to. It's different now. Colder, worshipful, distant. And you wonder, did you win? Or did you simply survive long enough to be carved into legend? You no longer command armies. You no longer bend nations. But you haunt everything. Because this is your empire, not by law, not by blood, by memory. Augustus builds well, too well. His order is clean, unquestionable, imperial. But in the quiet moments before dawn, when even the gods sleep, he sometimes glances to the east, to the statue of you above the temple of the divine Julius, to the eyes that never blink, and he wonders if you're still watching, still judging, still waiting. Rome endures, and so the empire expands. Borders shift. Wars come and go. Caesars rise and fall. But your name remains in the stones, in the sky, in the silence between thunderclaps, because you didn't just change the world, you rewrote it. And Augustus, he just published the final draft. Chapter 13, The Ghost of Caesar, Legacy and Legend. You walk through the palaces of Rome, not in body, but in shadow, a whisper behind curtains, a breath caught between pillars. Every footstep on marble echoes as if still tracing yours. They say you're dead. They say you were never mortal at all. Both are lies or truths. With you, the line blurs. The city remade. Rome has changed, but not forgotten. The city is louder now, crowded, monumental, more stone than soul. Temples rise like mountains. Roads stretch like prophecy. Augustus governs with a calm born of certainty. Your certainty, your fire distilled into law and order. The Republic, once the pride of senators and dreamers, is now a story children are told in schoolyards, half remembered, half believed. But your name? Still spoken, still feared, still sung. Everywhere and nowhere they build you into their world. Your face, frozen in serene marble, watches from arches and altars. Your name, Divus Julius, is etched into every coin, every decree, every oath sworn under imperial skies. Vendors in the forum tell your story to passersby. He was no man. He was lightning in human form. Soldiers rub your likeness for luck before battle. Senators, now ornamental relics, invoke your name to seem relevant. Even the emperors who follow wear your ghost like a second skin. Some try to live up to you. Others try to erase you. None succeed. The historians divide. The scribes war in ink long after the swords fall silent. To some, you are the tyrant who killed the Republic with a smile. To others, the savior who dragged Rome from the jaws of ruin. One scholar writes, Caesar didn't destroy liberty. He revealed how fragile it truly was. Another rebuts, he was not a man of ambition. He was ambition wanting. A third claims you practiced dark arts, necromancy, divination, rituals stolen from Eastern mystics. They say you didn't just escape death. You replaced it. You became something else. The road not taken. Sometimes, even now, you wonder, what if you had gone that morning? What if you climbed the Senate steps and met the knives with dignity? Would your death have sparked a rebirth? Would Rome have remembered you more kindly? Or would it have all burned? A republic born again, or civil war without end? But you stayed home. And because you did, the republic ended not with revolution, but with repetition. With elections emptied of power. With Senate sessions where no one speaks unless spoken to. With one man always at the center, and the people mistaking stability for freedom. You did not kill the republic. You let it transform. The torch passed, the fire burning. Augustus claims he built the empire. But the bricks were already stacked. You laid the foundation with every battle, every law, every silence that followed victory. You made Rome fall in love with order. Augustus gave it a name. But the soul of empire? The cult of one man, one voice, one fate. That was always yours. He rules in daylight. You rule in memory. Your contradictions become scripture. They say you were kind to enemies. They say you slaughtered without mercy. They say you wept for Rome. They say you reshaped it in your image. Every truth about you carries a shadow. Every lie has a grain of your smile in it. You were both Caesar and anti-Caesar, both the ideal and the warning. The Republic whispers, even now, from beneath the empire's weight. Some still dream of its return. Others fear it. All know that dream was never possible without your end. And you never gave them that. You gave them you instead. The torch passed, the fire burning. Augustus claims he built the empire. But the bricks were already stacked. You laid the foundation with every battle, every law, every silence that followed victory. You made Rome fall in love with order. Augustus gave it a name. But the soul of empire, the cult of one man, one voice, one fate. That was always yours. He rules in daylight. You rule in memory. Your contradictions become scripture. They say you were kind to enemies. They say you slaughtered without mercy. They say you wept for Rome. They say you reshaped it in your image. Every truth about you carries a shadow. Every lie has a grain of your smile in it. You are both Caesar and anti-Caesar, both the ideal and the warning. The Republic whispers, even now, from beneath the empire's weight. Some still dream of its return. Others fear it. All know that dream was never possible without your end. And you never gave them that. You gave them you instead. The ghost that guides, the ghost that haunts. Your footsteps echo in every war room. Every time a general eyes the Tiber with ambition, they think of you. Every time a senator stares at a statue too long, they remember. Every emperor who rules after Augustus will invoke your name. Some will call themselves Caesar. Most will pretend to be your heir. A few will imagine they're better than you. None of them will understand you, because you didn't seek power. You became it. A god with regrets. And when the feasts end, when the marble halls go silent, when the city sleeps and even the gods seem to rest, you sit quietly in the temple that bears your name. Your likeness cast in gold, your altar flickering with eternal flame. You are divine, immortal, remembered, but not at peace, because in some distant, unreachable corner of your heart, you still wonder what Rome could have been had you allowed yourself to fall. Had you become martyr, not monarch, memory, not myth, the echo that never fades. Rome moves on. It expands. It crumbles. It is reborn. But through every age, through Nero's fires and Constantine's cross, through Gothic sieges and Christian hymns, your name is carried forward, not as ruler, not even as God, but as origin, the point where power changed shape, the moment the old world died and the eternal one began. They build cathedrals now, not temples. They pray in Latin still, but to a different God. Yet the bones of empire remain, and carved into those bones is you, because legends don't fade. They echo, and some echoes last forever. ChatGPT said, Chapter 14, Echoes through time, the aftershocks of a different fate. You find yourself drifting through the endless corridors of history, a silent observer of the ripples caused by a single choice, to stay home that day. Rome, once a republic vibrant with voices and debates, has transformed into an empire ruled by an unyielding hand. The assassination that never was left a vacuum filled not with freedom, but with consolidation of power. You watch empires rise and fall like tides, each shaped by the legacy you left behind, whether by design or accident. The transformation reshaped more than just Rome's government. It changed the very way power was perceived for centuries. Kings, czars, emperors across continents claim your name or your style, Caesar becoming a title synonymous with absolute authority. In the courts of medieval Europe, the Holy Roman emperors trace their lineage, in spirit at least, to the empire you helped build. Monarchs in Russia adopt the title Tsar, a direct echo of Caesar. And centuries later in Germany, Kaiser carries the weight of your legacy. You see how your choice echoes in the shifting tides of history, shaping governance, ambition, and the very notion of rulership. But there's more, a more subtle change. Without your death, the philosophical movements that inspired revolutions, centuries later might never have taken root. The ideals of republicanism, liberty, and democracy had a harsher road, overshadowed by imperial authority and divine right. Some historians argue that the Enlightenment's seeds were delayed because the Republic's fall was not a martyrdom, but a slow surrender. The debate is fierce. Would the world's march toward democracy have accelerated had you died on that Senate floor, your blood igniting the fires of change? You wander through moments of cultural reflection. Renaissance artists sculpt your image with conflicting emotions, admiration and fear. Writers debate your nature, often comparing you to gods and monsters alike. In popular folklore, you become a mythic figure, sometimes hero, sometimes villain, but always larger than life. The line between man and myth blurs. Meanwhile, the empire you forged, though vast and enduring, shows signs of strain over centuries. Borders stretch thin, internal dissent simmers, the balance between power and justice teeters. Empires fall not because of armies, but because of ideas. Ideas that challenge the very foundation you built. Yet you remain a symbol, a reminder that one day, one decision, one moment can ripple through millennia. And as you fade further into legend, you smile, knowing that history is never fixed. It's alive, unpredictable, forever shaped by those who dare to act or to stay home. Chapter 15. A world without the IDs. What might have been. Imagine a thread not severed but pulled tighter. Not snapped in blood but drawn steadily through time, weaving a tapestry Rome was never meant to wear. Imagine the IDs came and went. No daggers, no last breath, no et tu. You stayed home, and history stayed awake. The empire that never fell, you live. Not just in legend, not just in memory, but in flesh and bone year after year. Your Rome does not shatter in a storm of betrayal. It stretches, quietly, deliberately, into something new. Not a republic, not entirely an empire. A shape the world has never seen before. A government with one voice, one vision, one man. You do not crown yourself king. Too crass, too obvious. Instead, you let time do the crowning. Each year that passes without civil war becomes your coronation. Each law rewritten in your image becomes your scepter. Each silence from the Senate becomes your throne. The cost of continuity. Rome thrives. The borders swell like lungs inhaling victory. Cities gleam. Roads shine. The legions sing your name across deserts and forests alike. The conspirators are forgotten. Their exile becomes myth, their names ghostly footnotes in scrolls no one reads. The Republic? Still mentioned in school recitations and nostalgic tavern songs. But its meaning fades like a statue left to the rain. Peace with a pulse of iron. Your rule brings a long peace. Pax Caesarea. Merchants call it the Golden Age. Poets call it the Age of Order. Philosophers call it many things, few of them flattering. The people grow comfortable. Too comfortable. No wars, no hunger, no public trials, but no elections, no arguments in the forum, no fire in the people's voice. Freedom becomes something that historians discuss, not something the citizens feel. You've preserved Rome, and in doing so, preserved it in amber. Perfect. Unmoving. Beautiful. Still. The reflection in stone, you live to be old. Older than anyone expected. Older than the myths preferred. Your hair grays, your steps slow. Your eyes lose none of their sharpness. You watch Octavius grow not in rebellion, but in quiet admiration. A student, not a usurper. You speak often of legacy, but rarely of mortality. Immortality is not about avoiding death. It's about reshaping what it means. And you have. The debate that never ends. In centuries to come, historians stare at the fork in the road you took. Some praise your longevity. Had Caesar died, Rome might have drowned in its own blood. They write. Others lament it. The Republic could have been reborn had the knife fallen. They counter. But no one can say for certain what might have been, because your choice made all other versions impossible. You became the axis history turned off, not a martyr, a survivor. And survival, as it turns out, changes everything. A whisper at the end. In the final dusk of your life, you stand once more on the Palatine. The wind carries no omens, just the scent of laurel, dust, and old ambition. You look down at the city you built. You see its peace, its obedience, its golden silence. And perhaps, just for a breath, you wonder, was the knife kinder? But the moment passes, because you know, this was your Rome. Not the Rome they wanted, the Rome they needed. You turn away from the view, the marble halls close behind you, and somewhere, deep in the vaults of time, Rome exhales. The final word, they still speak your name. In churches and courts, in wars and coronations, in revolutions and dreams. Caesar, a name no longer bound to a man, a title, a force, a legend, a warning, you chose to live. And in doing so, became the standard by which power is measured. Not because you died, but because you remained. Because you endured. Because you rewrote fate. Now dim the lights and settle into your softest blanket. Maybe turn on that gentle fan for a quiet hum in the background. The world outside fades away, and here in this moment, the weight of empires and battles drifts into a calm silence. Imagine the marble halls of ancient Rome, once alive with voices and ambition, now quiet beneath a twilight sky. The echoes of your choices ripple softly through time, a gentle reminder that every moment shapes the future in ways unseen. Rest easy knowing that history, with all its twists and turns, never truly ends. It just whispers on the wind, inviting you to dream of what might have been. And as your eyelids grow heavy, let the stories of kings, conspirators, and gods mingle with the steady rhythm of your breath. The IDs have passed, and peace settles in. Good night, and sweet dreams.